culture which we have accepted for thousands of years. Most of our minds, with some rare exceptions, are mediocre. Forgive me if I use that word. One may think one is extraordinarily out of that class. But to think that you are out of that class is also a form of mediocrity. This is not an insult. We are examining together. What is it to be mediocre? The word mediocre comes from Greek Latin, climbing halfway up the mountain. That's the real meaning of that word, mediocre. Never climbing all the way up, but being satisfied to climb halfway or 1/3 of the way. That's the meaning of that word, mediocre. And our education, however wide, whatever knowledge one acquires in a particular subject, it is all these factors of education are limiting the mind. Have you noticed how, especially in this country which is spreading this fact all over the rest of the world, how specialists, scientific specialists, the doctors, the surgeons, the philosophers, the psychologists, and so on, they are ruling each one of us. They have the authority to tell you what to do. They are the experts, how to bring up a baby, how to have sexual relationship properly, how to make up your face. They are these authorities, and we all obey them. Our obedience has at certain times a revolt, but that revolt is merely a reaction, and so it's not complete comprehension of the understanding that all specialized knowledge is limited, as all knowledge is limited. And a culture born out of this limitation is no culture at all. It's no American culture or European culture. They can go back to the Renaissance, to the past history. But deep culture of the mind can only come about through freedom from the known. Can there be such freedom? We're going to talk about it together because only a religion, from a religion, a new culture can only come into being. Religion is not the authoritarian, the accepted form of religion. The state religion, the religion of belief, of faith, of dogma, of rituals, of worship a symbol. That's not religion. obviously. So we're going to inquire into what is religion. Do you understand? It is we inquired into fear, into the nature of that extraordinary thing called love, whether human beings can ever end their suffering, their misery, their anxiety. And also, we should inquire together into what is religion. Man worships. There are still those people in the East who worship a tree, who worship a mountain. They give it in India to the Himalayas, a special peaks, a special name. And they worship at one time the earth, the trees, the heavens, the sun, as the Egyptians did. But we consider all that illusion, nonsense. And as we are so terribly sophisticated, we worship a symbol, pray to that symbol, to that savior, or as in India, it's another form of the same thing. Worship has been part of human life from the ancient of days. You may not worship a tree, but you go to the church or to a temple or a mosque, and there you pray, you worship. There's not much difference between the worship of a tree, which is alone in a marvelous field of green earth, and the symbol that thought has created in the church, in the temple, or in a mosque. There's not much difference between the two, because man suffers, he is in trouble, he doesn't know to whom to turn to. So he invents a comforting God, which is thought, invents a God, and then worships that which he has invented. These are facts, whether you like it or not. You invent the whole rituals of Christianity, as in India. They are complicated rituals. And it is the invention of thought. And then thought says that which is divine revelation. I do not know if you have not noticed. In Asia, which includes India, and here, divine revelation plays an extraordinary part. But the divinity is brought about by thought. The interpreter of that divinity is the priest. He thinks, and his thought has created various forms of rituals. So we're asking, is religion all this? Is religion based upon books, the printed word? Where a religion is based on a book, whether it's a Christian, Hindu, or Muslim, or the Buddhist, then there is dogma. The authority of the book becomes all important. There's bigotry, narrowness of mind. Both the Muslim world and the Christian world are based on book, the Quran and the Bible. In India, fortunately for them, they've got 100 books, 100 gods, no more than that, 300,000 gods. Don't please laugh, this is very serious. It sounds funny. And they're tolerant, which means they put up with anything. False gods, true gods, any kind of illusion, any kind of assertions of any so-called religious man. Here in the West, as the Muslim world, the book plays an extraordinary importance. And therefore, there's those who believe in the book, deeply convinced by every word in that book, they become bigotry, dogmatic, assertive, aggressive, and if they're not semi-civilized, they'll kill. This is happening in the world. So, is religion, the word religion, the etymological meaning of that word is unknown. It arises from certain Latin words, which we will not go into, but it actually means, according to certain dictionaries, the capacity to gather all your energy to discover, to come upon that which is true. That's the root meaning of that word. So we are gathering our energy, all our energy, not a specialized energy, the energy of thought, the energy of emotions, the passionate energy to inquire into what is truth and to go into it deeply. We must inquire also into why thought, which has invented all the religions in the world, all the rituals, all the dogmas, the beliefs, the faiths, which is the result of thought. There is nothing divine about anything. Thought can say what I have invented is divine. But thought is not sacred, is not holy. So it is important to go into this question of what is thought. We've gone into it previously. But the more you look at it, the more you inquire into the very nature of thought, the more complicated, the more it demands a subtle mind, it demands a quickness of mind, not a mechanical mind, not a mind that accepts, not a mind that acquiesces, but a mind that doubtful, questioning, demanding, has this great energy. And when you give this total energy, not an energy which is partial, because you are interested in some form of entertainment or in some form of relief, in some form of comfort, then it is all partial energy. Whereas if you demand totally to understand the nature of human mind, why we live the way we are living, destroying the earth, destroying ourselves, wars, misery, then you have to give all your energy. And where there is this total energy, complete passion to understand, to find out a way of living which is totally different from non-mechanistic, repetitive way. So we have to go into this question deeply once again. What is thought? Why thought plays such an extraordinary importance in our life, in our relationship? Is thought love? Please inquire with the speaker. Really, the speaker is putting your question. It's not his question. You are putting this question for yourself. Thought has created the marvelous cathedrals, magnificent structures in Europe and some of them here. And thought also has put all those things inside the cathedrals, in the churches, in the temples, in the mosques. So when asked, is thought sacred? Because it has put all this in these buildings, and then you worship it. I wonder if one sees the illusion of this, the ironic, actual deception that thought has invented the symbol, the ritual, the host, and different things in India and Asia. Thought has been responsible for all this. Some of it being copied from the ancient Egypts, from India, and so on. And then thought, having created this marvelous structure in stone, then inside it are all the symbols, the agony, and in the Asiatic world a different symbol. Then thought says you must worship that. So we are asking, is thought sacred in itself? Or it is merely, please listen to it, you may not agree, do not agree, but inquire. Is thought a material process? If it is not sacred, then it is a material process. But thought has invented these heaven and hell, the saviors of the world, according to different religions. Their rituals is all the result of thought. And then thought turns round and says, you must worship it. So, we must find out for ourselves, not according to any authority in spiritual, religious matters. There is authority of the surgeon, that's a totally different matter. But to discover, to come upon that which is eternal, if there is such thing as eternity, your mind must be free in all spiritual matters, in all psychic matters. That is in the psychological realm, which is you, there must be total freedom to find out. So we are going to inquire together the nature of thought. If you have no thought at all, you live in a state of amnesia, blankness. But that is a rare form of disease. But most human beings throughout the world, whether Hindus, Buddhists, and Christians, and so on, communists, the common factor is thought. They all think, whether they are extremely poor, uneducated, or the highly sophisticated, accumulated professor, or the cunning politician, or the highest authority of the church and so on. They all think, as each one of us does in our daily life. And that thought dominates our life. So it is very, very important, if one may point out, to understand the whole movement of thought. It has created great poetry, great painting, great sculpture, literature. And thought is necessary to do business, to drive a car and so on. What is thought? What is its origin? The beginning of thought. You are asking the question, not the speaker. Please apply your own mind's brain to inquire into this question. Because thought dominates every action in our life. Thought is the determining factor in relationship. So what is that thing called thought? The thinking machinery and the origin of it. Is not thought born out of memory? You remember where you live, the distance to be covered from here to where you're going. That's knowledge. And that knowledge has been acquired through experience. So the beginning of thought is experience, knowledge, memory stored up in the brain. Right? This is a fact, not exotic or absurd illusion. You remember something that happened yesterday, pleasurable or not. And that remembrance is stored in the brain, recorded in the brain. And from that record, thought comes into being. So thought, whatever it does, is not sacred. It's a material process. Some of the scientists even agree to what the speaker has been saying for many years. They have experimented on rats, pigeons, and guinea pigs, dogs, but they don't experiment upon themselves. We're also matter. And science is concerned with matter. And if thought is a material process, and thought, whatever it does, whether in the religious field or in the business field, or in preparing for wars through a gathering of armaments, is the result of thought. Thought has divided people into religious, this type of religious person, this type of human being who lives in a certain part of the world, and so on. If thought has divided human beings, and thought, because of its divisive nature, because thought is never complete, because it's born of knowledge, and knowledge is never total about anything. Therefore, thought is always limited and separated, because